All right, so let's start with your name.
Ron Bourgeois.
And where'd you grow up, Ron?
I grew up in the New Orleans area
Okay.
for most of my life. I was born in North Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
We moved down to Louisiana. I think I was maybe 2 years old. Everybody in that area, I guess all of my family, they were French and Cajun.
Mm.
So everybody could cook. Even my mother's side, they were Italian. So, my grandmother cooked, and my great grandmother. It was just a food festival.
You still like
Pretty
to
much.
cook today?
Oh yeah. Well, when you consider my dad was always in the restaurant business, managing in some way or another, different restaurants. And my first job, I was probably 14 years old, and I was doing something in Burger King, or I think it was Burger Chef is where he worked, and then Dobbs Airline Caterers, which became Steak and Egg Kitchen, and that's where I learned how to cook. I was 16 years old.
I understand that pretty recently you went through cancer and all that. So what kind of cancer was it?
It was it was colon cancer, and I found out about that. I think it was around December of 2011.
Okay.
Yeah. So they let you know. It's a real shock too.
Mm-hmm.
You go in thinking, the whole problem with this is you have to fast for a couple of days while they run their tests, and all you're thinking about is, or at least me, what can you eat when it's all done, and then to find out that they actually found something. I remember, I think my first reaction was I didn't want them saying anything in front of my family. It got me irritated that was how they broke the news to me. Everybody was standing right there.
Oh, they told it to you right whenever.
Oh yeah, it's like, sir, you've got cancer, and I wanted to say, you've got cancer, get away. I really didn't like the way they approached it. But anyway, so as it turned out, I never did really worry about it because I never really felt like if anything was going to get me, it would be cancer. I always felt like, okay, well, if they say they found it, then they'll be able to operate on it and get rid of it, and that'll be that. I just didn't see that and it never became a problem. They got it all out, and I didn't have any more issues with it. So, in my case, I'm pretty much of an optimist, just by nature,
Mm-hmm.
and I just settled it in my mind that this was not going to be a real big problem. Now, when I found out, a few months later that because I went in to the cancer thing thinking I was going to have a heart attack, and then they notified me that no, it wasn't that, it was this. But it was also, I had a blockage, and I had a triple bypass operation just 4 months, 5 months after the cancer operation. And so that, started to wear on me, but that was a difficult recovery.
Mm-hmm.
They had to suspend my chemotherapy for a year, and then I had complications when they did that surgery. So, but it was a rough year. I think it was 2012.
Okay.
When all this happened, and then, of course, the heart surgery gave me blood clots, and that almost ended everything. I was in the hospital 11 days, and once that ended, it was pretty much, I had gotten where I didn't want to go near a hospital because I was always afraid I'd be told something life-ending or drastic. But once that was over with, and it was rough on me at the time, and still is. I'm left with the use of one lung, and I still don't feel like I'm at death's door, but I do feel incapacitated a lot.
Right, because you can't.
There's a lot of things I can't do. Lots of times I'm out of breath, that type of thing. But it's, I think more of that's heart related. It's not anything to do with cancer, but it's just chemotherapy weakens you. It really does.
But besides all that, I mean, you've come to like you still continue all your hobbies, like bike riding.
I'll ride
I know
my bike.
you're really into. Tell me about your bike riding.
Well, it used to be a whole lot more than it is now. I'd ride in a group, and we call ourselves the Wild Hogs. And our group, I was joking with everybody. You had to be an alcoholic or diabetic or a wife beater or something to be in our club. And all we were a bunch of old guys wearing spandex and riding around. It was pretty funny. I'm a living embarrassment to my daughter if I get dressed in bike clothes if she's got any friends around.
You have any like prized possessions around here?
Yeah, I've got a bunch of them. I have I probably have 7 pistols and a rifle that I really like. And but the stories behind why I got that is it always becomes a collection. It seems like I'll get one and I'll either keep it or give it to somebody. Then I'll want another one. And sometimes I think I give them away so I can have an excuse to not just buy it, but to covet it. You got to want it.
Yeah.
And say, oh, I got to have this, and be thinking about it for 3 or 4 days.
So like when it comes to just, all of your hobbies, like, do you tend to show them off to people or?
Well, why get them unless, somebody would come over and I'll get in a conversation about some of that stuff, whether it's, depends on what the person likes, and I'll drag it out and show them or, hopefully not bore them to death, but, usually somebody that would ride bikes, I'll have to show them all my bicycles I've had. And I've done some silly things with that, thinking I could build bikes.
Really? Like
Well, when I became disabled because of all this, then you're in a phase where you have a lot of time to kill. So I thought, well, maybe I could start a bicycle business where and I probably could still build a bike. I've got the equipment to do it and everything. I know how. I don't know if it would be rideable, but I could build one.
You have the idea.
We got the general idea.
Mm-hmm.
I even went to Cleveland to get this Italian bike builder guy that I was talking to, a real nice guy, Joe Bringhelli, and to teach me how to do it. And I did that and I was in Cleveland in February. Don't ever go there then. It's like the worst time though. This was a blizzard. It was colder than I've ever been. I grew up in Louisiana and Texas, and I've just lived in the South, and this was 9 below zero out there. And I was like, I couldn't believe how cold it was. But getting back to the cooking thing, with the things that stay with you, with that or things that you're able to do, that you still can do. Like when I learned how to cook, I learned how to make roux for gumbo. I could still make. Once you can do that well, and you learn just a few things, your food tastes better than anybody's. Like my gumbo, I would only use the same cast iron skillet that I only use for making gumbo, so it always tastes a certain way. And cast iron is what you should use. Like if I was going to make breakfast, I could still flip it. I could put 6 eggs, 3 in each pan, and just throw them up in the air, and make beautiful eggs. And even if they're poached or easy, like I was still a short order cook, for God's sakes.
You can actually flip them in the air and everything.
Yeah. I can show you how to learn how to do that yourself. Okay. Is real simple. So,
do you think that cooking has it just kind of been your?
No, it's. Are you saying is that going to be your legacy?
Yeah,
I hope not.
Not your legacy.
I had a friend of mine say, we were, believe it or not, we're at a funeral, and I don't know whose, but we were at a funeral, and he looked at me and he says, "Yeah, look at all these. You know how they have items from your life at a funeral."
Mm-hmm.
And in fact, I think he was my brother-in-law Bobby. Yeah, they had catcher's mitt, or they had baseball gloves, and I had a friend of mine looked at me and says, "You know, when you die, they're going to have pots and pans," and I was I said, "Thanks a lot." It was really depressing.
Yeah.
Thinking about having, forks and knives and pots and pans hanging around at my funeral.